Okay, here we go. So this book was basically about a boy named Robinson Crusoe, who just basically started a trip, um, and his father was in high expectations of him. He wanted him to become a lawyer, but he didn't listen to his father, and he decided to follow his heart, and ended up going on a ship. After many different trips involving everything from making some money to becoming a slave, he ended up in Brazil. Um, in Brazil, Crusoe decides to he just decided to do a lot of things there. Um, he bought a sugar plantation, which was pretty successful, by the way. Um, then he chooses to go on a trip to Africa in order to save slaves and bring them back. This trip ends up in being a really long trip. Basically, he's shipwrecked, and he ended up spending 28 years on the island, creating a life for himself. Basically, he learned a lot of new things like how to make bread, get milk from goats, make cheese and butter and everything. Basically, how to survive on a island. Um, also learn how to protect himself and build himself home. Um, during this time, he became faithful to religion and God again. At first, he was not believing in God. Um, he didn't listen to his father. He didn't know who he is. He just wanted to listen to his heart and go on a trip. But on this trip, he learned what God is again and become faithful. Um, in this long trip, Crusoe ran into a lot of issues, and he realized that there are savages on the island that practice cannibalism. Crusoe who, Crusoe saved one of the savages, and his name is Friday, and I will later explain who Friday was. They became really good friends, and he taught Friday a lot of things about religion and everything else. Finally, a ship comes along the way, and Crusoe Friday makes a plan to take over the ship uh, and go home. Basically, eventually, their plan worked, and Crusoe got back from the island after 28 years. So the main characters of this book is no, the first one is of course Robinson Crusoe. The book was basically all about him, and he was just a boy, like I said, who at first uh, didn't understand his religion, didn't listen to his father. He was just following his heart, and the whole book was just about him, his adventures, and how he went to the sea, how he all this experience in the sea, and the whole book was just about him. So he was the main character, and how he ended up spending 28 years on a deserted island. Um, Next one was Zuri. Zuri was basically uh, just a slave that Crusoe took with him when he escaped slavery. Zuri was loyal to Crusoe, by the way, and when they two escaped, Zuri was, yeah, like I said, loyal. But when uh, when Crusoe was young, he later sold Zuri back into slavery for a profit, which was interesting. Um, so third main character that I think was really important in this book. His name was Friday. He was a savage that practiced cannibalism. Um, Crusoe saved Friday. before he was about to be eaten by other cannibals. Uh, Friday is extremely loyal and grateful towards Crusoe. He was a true friend, basically, and they uh, they were just um, working together, and they end up uh, uh, creating a strong friendship, and they work together to get off the island. He became the best friend on the island for Crusoe. Another main character was Captain Vido. This is the wife of the captain that took Crusoe in and taught him many things. Crusoe was listening to her. He believed in her. Um, he trusted her, and he left. By the way, he left his money and belongings to her. And after 28 years, when uh, he came back, um, she gave suggestions. She encouraged him to settle in England, which was a smart suggestion for Crusoe. Um, uh, and also there was the captain of the ship, basically. But I didn't include him in presentation. But he was the captain of the ship that rescued young Crusoe and Zuri. Um, but yeah, they reunited after Crusoe's 35 years on the island. Okay, main themes. Well, I found three main themes. They are religion, savages, and overcoming. Religion was one of the biggest ones because, like I said, um, Crusoe uh, was rebellious against God and his religion that he was brought up in. Um, but on this trip, he um, he learned how to believe in God and began to appreciate His blessings and faith. Uh, he was he practiced he practiced praying often, and um, he basically on this trip learned what true repentance was, and then lived out his life the way from there on out, basically. Savages. He Crusoe described how savages lived on the island too, and they practiced cannibalism. Basically, like I said, when he saved Friday, and like, a lot of things would happen on the island. It's just savages was one of the main themes that um, I had to include in this presentation. And overcoming. Uh, Crusoe had to overcome a horrific experience, and then he did his best to make the most of it. Um, he was on a island by himself for 28 years, which was overcoming was either you overcome those issues or you die. It's one or the other. Uh, he made the island his home. He didn't give up. He learned everything. He learned how to cook, how to make food, um, build homes, tame animals. He basically learned everything he needed to learn how to survive, and he ended up surviving and leaving the island. So he overcame those issues.